If you're heading off to Disney and don't know where to start, click yourself over to MiceChat and you're out of the dark. They take the dizzy out of Disney for you and for me. So come on, it's MiceChat, that's where it's at.
All right, MiceChat Podcast. We're finally back for another one, 2021. Feels like 2020 still right now, but we have with us the CEO of MiceChat.com, Dusty Sage. Dusty, my friend, it's been so long.
It's been too long. I mean, we haven't done a MiceChat podcast since spring of 2020, and we did a few on YouTube, and this one is our first both. This is going to end up on YouTube and the same version as a podcast. So we've entered, 1998 here at the MiceChat Podcast, and we're so excited to be back. But we're hitting you all at a crazy moment in Disney history, because there was huge news this week from both Disney World first, and then a couple of days later from Disneyland, both big stories of which crashed the MiceChat servers. And we're built to handle a pretty large volume of readers, but so many people tried to hit the site all at once, like 30,000 people all hitting the site and refreshing to try and pull up the page at the same time that we crashed. And we're going to start with the really big story of the week, which I think is Disneyland deciding to end their pass holder program.
Say what?
What? I mean, right? Like, I got a call early in the morning saying, you can't talk about this yet, but we want to fill you in on what's coming. And the pass holder program is ending. And my mind exploded at first, but we wrote about this way back in October because Tokyo Disneyland did this in October. Remember that one, Chloe? And
Chloe is on the podcast.
Team was, the back and we're like, what? Crazy. Like, there are so many people that live in Tokyo that go to Tokyo Disneyland. Is a very similar demographic to Disneyland and all the locals that live in LA and Orange County and San Diego. And all of the other Disney parks are very different. All the other Disney parks are tourists, but Disneyland is locals and Tokyo Disneyland is locals. And we wrote, could this happen at Disneyland? And we did a poll, and the majority of the people on the poll said they thought it could happen at Disneyland. And now here we are in January of 2021, and it happened.
Yep.
So first, I just want to really quickly explain why Disney took this step. And then I'd like to hear your thoughts, the two of you, on how it's going to impact your visits to Disneyland. And it could be good or bad or whatever you think. But basically, the situation is that Disneyland has over 1 million pass holders. So there are more than 1 million pass holders. How many more, we don't quite know, but that million number is gigantic, and assume it's even larger than that. And what happens when 1 million people who live close by all decide that they want to go to Disneyland when it reopens, and Disneyland will be at extremely limited capacity? And Chloe, when Disney World opened, Magic Kingdom, for example, you walked into that park and it felt like empty, right?
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's something I thought about with Disney World, and just the difference between Disneyland and Disney World. If Disneyland opened with limited capacity and they required park reservations, I feel like they would be booked out for months and months, and people would be paying for a pass for months and months that they couldn't even go to the park. Disney World had some issues here and there until they kind of relooked at their data and their capacity and the reservations and everything. And they kind of got that figured out. I can go to any park tomorrow, and it's not really booked up right now. But that felt very restricting. And when you're paying for admission to come pretty much whenever you want, if you have, the top of the line pass with no blockouts, and you're not allowed in, I can understand why they had to get to this point.
Yeah, it's exactly what happened in Tokyo. They have a huge local pass holder program, and they have fewer pass holders, I think, than are at Disneyland in California. But people couldn't get a reservation for like 3 and 4 months. And so, everybody's complaining online about how they couldn't get a ticket, but they paid for it. So it's unfair to the pass holders to do that to them, but it's also unfair to the day guest who buys a ticket and then gets there and finds everything booked up. So I think Disneyland decided that they would just do the fair thing, which is give everyone their money back, give everyone an equal opportunity to get a ticket into the park. And then they can control admissions by selling dated tickets. So this whole difficulty in Florida of having to go onto a website and then book a reservation after buying your ticket, which is stressful because you don't know if you will be able to get that reservation. Whereas at Disneyland, they will be able to sell just, you buy a ticket, you're guaranteed admission. And that's the way they're doing it at Hong Kong Disneyland, and they were doing it at Disneyland Paris and some other places. So I think that method is fair, and it allows Disney to set the attendance level at whatever they need it to be at. So maybe that opening week they're at as little as 15 to 20,000 people at Disneyland, and maybe 8,000 to 10,000 people at California Adventure. And that is nothing, folks. A normal day at Disneyland is 55, 60, 65,000 people on a normal day. So we're talking about extremely limited capacity. And you can imagine what would happen safety-wise if on opening day, pass holders, just like, park is open, I'm just going to go. And 1 million people show up and line up, around the entire city of Anaheim, waiting to get into Disneyland with no social distancing, because unless Disney's there with a cattle prod telling people to be safe, they really haven't been in the Disney parks. So I think that's the situation. Disneyland is taking the absolute safest route that they can. And I know a lot of people are upset out there, but we wrote an article yesterday and put a poll in it. And by and large, more than 75% of the people said they understood why the pass holder program had to be canceled. And most of them even said it's an opportunity for Disneyland to wipe the slate clean and deal with this problem of overcrowding in the parks. And every time a trash can gets repainted or a new, ear headband gets released, or there's a new popcorn bucket, the park is just swarmed and by pass holders who can just show up and buy a popcorn bucket and leave. But what happens is they clog up the park for regular guests. And Doug, you're one of those regular guests.
I am. This is very good news to me. And as you're saying, there could be a time where just all the pass holders decide to go in a day. That's happened before. It's going to happen again if they kept it going. I know that the annual pass has been quite an issue for Disney for a few years now. In fact, really, since the expansion with California Adventure going back that far, it became an issue, and they kept on trying to figure it out. But people kept on buying it, and more people. It didn't matter how much they raised the price on it. People just kept on doing it. So sometimes best way to do it is just to cut it off. And I'm glad that Disney did this. I know they've been talking about it for years. For me, I stopped going to Disneyland. I haven't been there probably 4 years now. And the reason is that it is overcrowded. I come from Northern California. It's not even like I'm that far, but I only go there every once in a while, and I bring my whole family. But if my family goes in there and then it's just, basically sardines the whole day, and we don't get to enjoy really thing outside of maybe 3 attractions, it's not worth the money to me anymore. This move is going to make going to Disneyland for people like me worth the money to go. I am willing to pay the money that Disney is going to, because of course they're going to charge a lot. I'm willing to pay that money when I get to experience this with my family. My family gets to experience everything that they want to experience. And it sounds like we're going back to old days a little bit with the ticketing, right?
Yeah. And it may not be as expensive as people think, because think about this. Pass holders pay less per entry than a day guest by far. So if you bought one of the flex passes for $600 or whatever it was, and you go once or twice a month to Disneyland, you're paying a whole lot less than a day ticket holder who paid $115 or more, depending on what the rate was that day. So Disneyland is going to be able to adjust prices overall down a little bit if they wanted. And I think they will continue to do a scale of prices from, a low price on days that they don't expect to be as popular to a higher price on a day they do expect to be more popular. And as park capacity increases, we may even see prices on some days decrease. So this could be a really good thing in helping make the park more affordable again, because for a while there, it was more expensive because it was so crowded. Exactly. And it was crowded because the more expensive annual passes got, the more people felt they had to go to justify the cost of their pass. So my pass, for example, the Premier Pass is over $2,000 a year to go to all the parks at Disney World and Disneyland.
Yeah.
Now, I have to go a lot to make that feel to me like I got my money out of it. And the more I go, the more I'm making the problem worse. And so Disney was in this cycle of more people are going, we have to raise the prices. But it was only making crowding worse, not better. So this allows them to reset that and fix it. And I do have hope that it's going to make things better. Now, here's their problem. I did get to speak to Disneyland Resort President Ken Potrock. Here's a man who has never spent a single day running and operating theme park. Think about that. He was hired for this job in the middle of a pandemic, and he has spent the better part of an entire year running a closed theme park.
Now.
Yes, and they've made this decision to end their gigantic pass holder program with all of these loyal fans. And you know how crazy a pass holder is, folks? I mean, these are the very best Disney fans. These are people paying thousands of dollars to buy an annual pass, to go to the park, deck themselves out in Disney clothes. Chloe, you know they're always in their ear headbands. And right? Exactly. And so Ken said to me that his biggest fear was having these people feel as though the rug has been pulled out from under them and that Disneyland doesn't care about them anymore. So his number one concern in all of this was, we decided not to roll out a new ticket plan right away because we want to take the time to listen to these people in what they want. So no pass holder program, at least at first, because of the limited capacity, but what could we do that makes you feel heard, like you have a sense of belonging, like this is still your, home park? What can we do? And they use the word membership in the email that he sent out to fans, but that membership doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get any entries into the park, but that membership could mean you get discounts at the park, special events, special merchandise. And I'm just putting this out here. What I would like to see, when Disneyland opened a couple of years later, they created a fan club called the Magic Kingdom Club. In 1957, they created this. And fan club members got a special shirt and a special ID card, discounts. They got a magazine. So not unlike D23, but for the park. And if Disneyland were to create a Magic Kingdom Club for 2021, it could have a special card that gets you discounted tickets to the park, maybe even in the off season, heavily discounted, bring a friend days, special merchandise. If they track your purchases and the number of tickets you buy, you might earn tier credits that give you even higher discounts at upper levels. And maybe they can create a way for fans to engage more with Disneyland, sharing fan tweets from inside the park and things like that. So there's a lot of things they could do to create a sense of membership at Disneyland without giving the unlimited access that many of these passes were giving. So Chloe, how do you think overall it's going to impact your future Disneyland experiences? Make it better or worse?
I think overall better. When traveling is, healthy and normal again, I typically visit Disneyland once or twice a year. And it is very crowded. I usually visit a day or two at a time, and it's busy. The last few times I had to invest in Max Pass because there was no other way I would be able to go on, like Doug said, more than 3 rides. It's just, it's a lot. And you're sardine packed anywhere you go. You can't really enjoy an area as much as, you'd like to, especially at the little nooks and crannies and stuff, people taking photos and just relaxing and just being there. It's very busy. I feel for the people who, this is their livelihood. Disneyland's in their backyard. They grew up with this. I feel for them because I understand that. Orlando's in my backyard and I've gone a lot since I was a kid. But I don't know. I feel like this has to kind of be the solution, especially for the sort of theme park climate that any theme park is in right now, with limited capacity, social distancing. We're going to be wearing masks probably for a while. I have a question for both of you, though. Do you think this was already going to happen, and COVID just kind of expedited the process? Because I feel like this was kind of like a long time coming. I know Disneyland kind of oversold passes when they did the monthly payment, and then the Flex Pass, and that was really popular. So yeah, do you think that this was already kind of premeditated and COVID kind of helped in a way?
Doug, what do you think?
100%. Yeah. This is just my opinion. I think it's been going on for at least the last 5 years, where they've been trying to figure out how can they cut off annual passes completely from Disneyland. And COVID came along, and COVID's not a great thing for any business at all. But you to make the best of the business, yeah, it was the best choice for them, and they had that opportunity, and they took it. And man, I mean, I just applaud them for finally putting it through. It took something horrific for it to do it, but
right.
Yeah. I also agree that it's been coming for a long time, and I think they've tried to address it in a number of ways. The price increases we talked about earlier, I think they thought for a while, well, we'll just decrease the number, but we won't lose the amount of revenue. We'll just increase the price. But it did nothing really to decrease the number of members. Maybe some people went down a tier, but they didn't lose their pass entirely. And more people just started budgeting it into their lives, just made things worse. And then they tried to use the Flex Pass to at least control the number of days that people were there. So there's a maximum number of people that can get in using a pass on any given day. The problem with that was always going to be they weren't going to change the number of pass holders, and people just wouldn't be able to get the number of days they wanted. So as the Flex Pass became more popular, or they added it to more tier levels, it would have just gotten, to a point where nobody could get in. So I do think they were headed towards a complete rethink of the program. And on MiceChat, it was an incredibly popular position for many posters to say they just need to reboot the pass holder program, kick everybody off, create an all new set of offerings. For now, I think that offering is just create a sort of membership program that makes people feel like they are part of the Disneyland ecosystem, the part of the fan base, but have them buy tickets like anyone else, maybe give them discounts. So I do think that's the solution, at least in the short term. And it kind of goes back to the early days of the park. That's how it always used to be. Going to Disneyland used to be special. You went when you saved up enough money to go. It was usually somebody's birthday or a special occasion, or you got all A's on your report card. Yeah. Now I go because I don't have anything else to do.
Yeah, I remember.
That's unfair. It's unfair to you, Doug, because you've got, a family of 17 or however many kids you've got now. And to try and afford to go is a huge, huge deal for you. And then you get there and it's just filled with people who just feel like they can live there. And that's not what a theme park is. So I think there needed to be some sort of a reset mentally for people. And I do think people will enjoy Disneyland more when they go a little less. So
I remember actually speaking with Tony Baxter a few times on this progress and the process of this. And, he's all about, he wants to go all the way back to like the old school e-ticket, A-ticket stuff, where you actually have like a card where you have a certain amount of credits and you use those credits for whatever attractions, so you get the experience, the attractions you truly want there, so that you're not spending so much just to get in, but rather you're spending more on what experiences you truly want. And I when I was thinking about it, I was like, sometimes that old school style of how they used to do it, sometimes that does work for today and age. Now, this isn't specifically that, but it is kind of a step back towards closer to that, rather than going forward into this overpopulated, horrific situation that we've been in for a while.
Yeah, Tony's right. And I can see pros and cons to that. I mean, it's very labor intensive selling the tickets and all that, but now there's technology. So you can use your cell phone to buy whatever access level you want. And it could be, you're just buying an attraction for the day, or 2 or 3, or it might be you're buying as many as you can ride for the day, or you're buying all the e-tickets or anything that's not an e-ticket, whatever. And they could have any different package they want, and you could tap your phone on those Fast Pass Plus machine thingies, and you go. They could do that at both Disneyland and Disney World. And that wouldn't have been possible 10 years ago, when people first started talking about bring back the ticket system, Disneyland is overcrowded. But now it's quite possible. And Chloé, this throws it back to you, because at Disney World, they just announced that MagicBands are no longer going to be free, and they're essentially being replaced by your cell phone. Is that right?
Mm-hmm. I feel like this is a long time coming, because the technology has, was put into place a while ago. And I'm very thankful for it, because honestly, I don't even use a Magic Band anymore. I have so many that I've paid for and that are cute and everything, but they're kind of a nuisance, especially in the summer and it's hot. I don't see MagicBands completely going away just because it is a merchandise opportunity, and also kids who are too young for a phone or what have you. But yeah, it's technology's here.
So what's weird though about this move though is that Disney just 10 years ago spent how many $1 billion to get this going?
Almost $2 billion.
Yeah, and now they're like, yeah, no, cell phones are way better than that. So that was kind of a bad investment, really, in the long run.
Yeah, they could have built Tokyo Disney Sea in Florida.
Oh,
for what they spent rolling out MagicBands that then a decade later they're trying to replace with your cell phone, like they never saw that was coming. But it's an interesting thing, and I do think now, because it's going to go to cell phones, and what are they calling it? Magic Mobile or something like that? Mobile Magic?
Mobile Magic Pass, I think.
It's either Magic Mobile or Mobile Magic, but there's magic in there, folks. It's Disney. So they use the word magic, and it's coming to your phone. Once that happens, it's going to be at Disneyland. It's going to be on the cruise ships. It's going to be everywhere, because you'll be able to just incorporate it into what's already in the My Disney Experience stuff. So you can schedule a meal, pick it up. You can buy merchandise and now pay for it on your phone and then just tap out as you leave. They're doing that right now in downtown Disney. I think they're even trying it out in Florida. And you'll be able to do things like schedule ride appointments and tap and all of that stuff. And Doug, it could very well end up being that in order to get express access, like fast pass type access, you may even have to pay for it, kind of like what Tony was saying with the old ticket system. But it wouldn't necessarily be like the old ticket system, but just if you don't want to wait and stand by, you could pay a little extra and just breeze right in. Because once it's on your phone, they can charge it automatically, tap through, and it doesn't take a cast member to help you figure it all out because you do it yourself. So I think that's coming, especially in an age.
Don't have a problem with that. Yeah.
Yeah. And if the trade-off is maybe the parks won't be as busy, they're not going to let as many people in, but it's going to be a little more piecemeal in what you pay, and the overall cost is maybe not as high to get in, but then you're going to pay for these additional experiences to plus it. And not everyone's going to be happy with that. I think a lot of people say, that's kind of classist. I can't afford that. But if it allows you to afford to be able to get into the park to begin with, it might be worth it. It might be a good trade-off. So we'll see what happens. But I think something like that is coming. Chloe, that's not the only thing they announced this week. No. And tell everybody what the first thing was that crashed MiceChat this week.
They announced that Magical Express, the transportation between MCO and Disney World, is ending next year, which is a pretty big part of the Disney World experience, along with the takeaway of free MagicBands and extra magic hours, which I know we'll talk about. It kind of leaves you wondering what's going to happen with dining plans, with fast passes, because the experience that was a Disney World vacation for the last 10 or so years has completely changed. And I feel like it's a different dynamic here because Disney World's open and we're seeing all these changes happen that are going to take place in the next year, while Disneyland is closed, sadly. And the pass holder program's ending, and they might have more changes that are coming out when the parks eventually do open. But I feel like it's a little bit more dramatic here because the Disney World vacation experience is way different than Disneyland's ever has been. You have to have your dining, your fast passes, everything sorted out. And now it's just kind of completely changing. We have no idea what's going on really, because they're taking things away, not really talking about what's coming, in the near future. So, but yes, Magical Express is a big difference. They're taking that away.
When it was first announced, I recall a little conversation that we had in chat, and you were like, I can't believe this is happening, because Disney World had this opportunity that they created to lock people into Disney World, right? They get on a bus, they're taken directly to their Disney World hotel, and then they're stuck there. They don't have a car to go to Universal or SeaWorld or into Orlando. They're stuck at Disney World, which means all their shopping and all their meals. And then once they're there, buses take you to the parks and downtown and Disney Springs, and the water parks and the golf courses, but they don't take you outside the resort. Mm-hmm. So Disney had what some people called magical handcuffs on people. And now they're completely doing away with that and telling people, take an Uber. I mean, that's literally what it said in their press materials was, with rideshare and other opportunities, guests don't need Magical Express anymore.
That's incredible.
But I don't think, and I know that the cost of Magical Express was just kind of built into your hotel room cost. I guarantee you they're not going to lower the cost of hotel rooms after this.
That's anything else that's changed. The prices have not changed. And that's what I think what people are mostly upset about is that things are being taken away or replaced with lackluster modalities. And it's becoming frustrating for a lot of people. They don't think that it's going to stay on site anymore or even go to Disney as long as they were before.
It's a very interesting thing. And you know who's happy about this? Universal Studios.
Yeah.
A lot of people are now going to think about spending time at Universal or renting a car or taking a ride share to Universal because now their mindset is going to be, I didn't, take Disney transportation to get there, and I'm going to have to figure out how to get myself around. And that might include me going to Universal or SeaWorld or Busch Gardens. And there's something else that's going to make that a little easier. And there was a train story that kind of hit last year that we kind of missed and went under the radar. People didn't really talk about much, but there's a high-speed rail project in Florida called, I think, Brightline. Is that right?
Yeah.
And they were partnered up with Virgin. So Steve Branson and Virgin Atlantic and all of that, they were going to come up with this high-speed rail project throughout Florida. So eventually going to make its way to Orlando. And that project fell apart. Steve Branson pulled out. But Disney signed a deal with Brightline to make sure that the rail went all the way to Walt Disney World. So it's going to go from in the south of Florida, like Miami, all the way up to Orlando, over to Disney World, and then make its way from there to Tampa. So you'll be able to tour Florida if you want in just a couple of years. And they've already started construction on the rail lines, and they're coming. And it will hook up, I believe, with Disney Springs. Is that right, Chloe?
Yes. That's correct.
So you'll go from Orlando Airport, MCO, directly to Disney World. And then once you're there at Disney Springs, then there'll be all the Disney buses to get you to your hotel. And perhaps they will still have a Magical Express type of offering to take your luggage on the train and transport it directly to your hotel room so you don't have to lug it. I'm sure Disney is working that out with Brightline, especially since they've entered into an agreement. That's probably why they entered into an agreement, so that your luggage could be handled for you and it will still be magical. So I am looking forward to that. I'll go to Busch Gardens. I mean, if I can get onto the train
at Disney
Springs,
yeah,
Tampa, which is a fun city, folks. There's a lot to do in Tampa, and it's on the coast, so you can go to the beach. Or you could take a bus from the station in Tampa and go to Busch Gardens, which is a wonderful park with the great Halloween offerings, wonderful for the family, animals and rides all in one place, kind of like Animal Kingdom, but larger and more stuff to do. So I think people will be surprised, and you'll be able to get around. What I haven't heard about, Doug, is whether or not this will also have a stop at either the convention center or Universal somewhere. And it would make sense for it to, but I haven't seen anything like that on the plans. Do you think that Universal would be highly impacted negatively if there wasn't a stop somewhere in the Universal area?
Yeah, I would imagine that Universal somehow is trying to get in on this somehow because of COVID last year. They had already set up for Epic Universe that they were going to be doing, and they had their own transit system that they were going to be using, that they had their deal with the city of Orlando for that. That was going to be going between all the Universal parks and also the convention center. So with that now gone, or at least on hold for a good number of years, I imagine that Universal is going to try to figure out some way to get into this or figure out how to do another transit off of this somewhere. Right. Maybe not in an agreement with them, but somehow they figure something out that they can still do a transit off that.
Maybe they'll run buses from Orlando to Universal, or maybe they'll get a stop. But that will be something to watch. And also that whole Epic Universe thing is just, it's wild to me, Doug, that they were working so hard and so fast to get that thing built quickly. And then it just ground to a halt. But they've already cleared all the land. Last time I was out in Florida a few months ago, I got a tour of the area around there by one of our staff members who lives right next to the Epic Universe construction site. We could see construction equipment just stacked up, basically. Wild. Yeah. But part of that project was the Nintendo World. And Nintendo World is opening now in Japan. and looks fabulous.
Amazing.
We saw some video from there. It's of course well under construction in Hollywood, and it's hard to imagine now that Universal Orlando would just not do anything with it. So my suspicion is it's coming to the existing Universal parks somewhere, as it originally was supposed to, and they'll come up with something else for Epic Universe if and when that ever happens. So do you think that they will push forward with Nintendo World, or do you think we're still going to wait a long time?
It's coming. There's no way that they're going to hold it back. It's a product that they spend a lot of money for, have a big deal with. It was meant specifically for Orlando before they even thought about Japan and Hollywood, to be honest, because they knew it was going to be the major attraction that could pull people away who are really into the Disney magic, and it was something that the kids and the family were all going to be able to enjoy together. It probably Toon Lagoon and Islands of Adventure, something like that, I could see go and give way. Yeah, exactly. Give way for Nintendo. But Nintendo's coming because it's too hot of a property, especially right now. Every single time that you hear about video games, the Switch it gets bigger, bigger, and bigger. We have the PlayStation 5, Xbox, everything out, but Switch and Nintendo is still a major moneymaker within the video game world. And Mario is probably the biggest entity, maybe even slightly bigger than Mickey Mouse worldwide.
What?
I know it's crazy to say, but it's kind of true. Mario is recognized everywhere.
And Pokemon, but I don't think that's going to be included in anything Nintendo because it's a separate.
It may end up being an expansion in the future. So it's a very interesting. I think we'll see Donkey Kong there eventually. There's all sorts of stuff that will eventually happen if it's popular, like Wizarding World has doubled, in size and in parks. Universal will do that for sure with Nintendo. Doug, I couldn't believe what I saw in the video from the new land in Japan. Not only does it have that incredible Mario Kart ride, and then that outdoor people moverish type of kiddie, experience. Yeah. But the land itself is interactive beyond what we were originally promised for Galaxy's Edge at Disney. And they actually deliver it. So the whole land is like a giant game. You can actually, smash mushrooms and cause stars to pop up, and you can earn points as you go through the land on an app, and you score points in queues and
blocks.
Yes, and you can tap things with your. They have like a MagicBand type of thing. You can tap things in the queue and make special effects happen. They're really firing on technology, and instead of making it so complicated they weren't able to do it, so they just scrapped it like they did at Galaxy's Edge, they made it simple enough to be able to do, which is always best in a theme park setting. The less complicated, the better, because those people who can figure something out, great, they'll do it. But anyone can figure out how to tap their watch or a little band on, an icon in a queue and make something magical happen. Mm-hmm. So kudos to Universal. I can't wait to see it happen in Hollywood. And I hope that there's an expanded version of the experience that comes to Orlando where there's more room for it. I'm just worried that this economic downturn is going to cause Universal and Disney and everyone else to go tiny, if anything, with projects. Yeah. And we'll do a phase 2 or phase 3, which in most places means it's never going to happen. So looking forward to something big.
And I would just advise to anybody who has not seen any of the video yet of Super Mario World Japan, take a moment, just watch it. It literally looks like you're looking at a CG movie, but it's real. It's real.
Walk through one of those pipes, you walk through one of those pipes to get in, and you're on the second story of the land. So the land is built on 2 levels, and so it just feels like a fake 3D dimensional game set, like it looks like one of the games. That's incredible.
I just on the floor watching that video. I've only owned Nintendo consoles, and I'm a huge Nintendo fan. And when I saw the screenshot, someone posted a screenshot on social media of the Mario Kart video. I was like, is that real or is that concept? That looks like the video
concept art, but it was real.
Yeah. And then the tour of the creator of Mario did the little tour around the land, and it's just, oh my God, it looks incredible. I can't wait.
Mario showed up and he said, "I'm your papa."
Yeah, oh, so sweet.
Doug, do we know which theme park design company built that land?
I don't know.
You do.
Oh no, Misty.
We're not allowed to say.
No, I can't. I Universal Creative.
Universal Creative folks comes up with ideas and they project manage, but there's always a third-party design company that builds.
There's like 8 parties attached to it, but yeah,
Right.
it's a lot. But
Well,
it's
it looks marvelous, and I, again, like Doug said, you can find video on MiceChat. Just search Nintendo World on MiceChat, and you will find it. And it's really incredible. Lots of special shops and restaurants and merchandise and rides and interactive experiences. You'll be floored. One other kind of combo Disney World Universal thing going on, Chloe, that was a big surprise this week is, since the pandemic started, of course, Disney World has had to shrink the number of hours, shrink the number of guests. So they temporarily discontinued Extra Magic Hours, which used to be one park every day had special hours. And it was either an hour early in the morning or it was 1 or more hours in the evening. In fact, Magic Kingdom would have 3-hour Extra Magic Hours in the evening, which was always my favorite time to go to Magic Kingdom. In the evening, after most guests have gone home, for 3 hours at night when it wasn't hot, and ride all the rides you want, usually with little or no wait at all. Mm-hmm. Morning Extra Magic Hours were sort of a nightmare because everyone would go to the park that day, and there are 4 parks and all those hotels, and all the hotel guests would go to the one park, making it for the entire day the most crowded park for the day. Mm-hmm. Of course, the solution to that would have been for Disney to just do an hour at all 4 parks every morning. And then maybe still done Extra Magic Hours at one park in the evening a few days a week. But they've done something else. What did they ultimately decide to do?
We have a whole whopping 30 minutes each morning at every park for resort guests.
So instead of being one park with an extra hour, it's now all 4 parks every day for 30 minutes. Mm-hmm. So it solves the problem I was talking about with the overcrowding at the one park who had the Extra Magic Hours, but it's just 30 minutes, which I think is still going to cause an overcrowding problem.
Yeah.
Now, guests are going to be encouraged every morning to show up at opening, which is already the big problem at all 4 parks. You know, social distancing wise, the parks are not that crowded. And for the most part, except for Hollywood Studios, it's felt pretty good in the parks. Fairly safe. They've started to add more and more guests. It's starting to feel less and less safe. But the one time each day when it feels horrible is opening. Mm-hmm. In fact, when I was there on the opening weekend, even though there were very few guests, those first few weeks, I mean, they were letting like nobody in, but the one time of day it didn't feel that way was at rope drop, because everybody showed up because the park hours were short. They were only 6 to 8 hours long. And so everybody wanted to be there at the moment the park opened, and it did not feel safe. So we waited half an hour before we'd show up. So we'd show up a half an hour after opening, and then it felt dead. So that was, our big tip. Well, now they're going to make it even more so people wanting to go that extra half an hour early, because that's the only half hour that you can get anything special.
I wonder if they made it 30 minutes instead of an hour to make it seem less enticing to some, because 30 minutes, all that really is a guarantee that you can rope drop and be at the front of the line at whatever the most popular attraction is at the park that you're going to.
Right. Because the minute you leave that first attraction, the park's open to everybody.
Open. Exactly. I really feel like this was a cost-cutting measure on Disney's part, because Extra Magic Hours in the evening, there was no dining locations open. I mean, you could get maybe a box of popcorn or something. Some of the gift shops were open, but it was really the attractions that you could just like go on over and over again with low crowds. And I think this was a measure that they took to cut down on operations and what have you. So it's sad. Times have called for this. I'm really not surprised at anything anymore. But the 30 minutes in the morning is really just like a guarantee to go on Flight of Passage, Seven Dwarfs Mine Train, or whenever Tron opens, Frozen Ever After, and Runaway Railway. Like that's the 30 minute is just like your go-to for standby.
I forgot all about Tron.
I know. Me too.
So there's one other big thing that we should discuss, and it has to do with when Disneyland might actually reopen. It's the number one question we receive every day on MiceChat. Every day, without fail, we receive 25 or more emails to my email account that say, Dusty, when do you think Disneyland's going to open? Last year, we were able to sort of make some predictions based on what Disney's internal planning was. And then the state decided that they were going to go ahead and officially create guidance for the theme parks. And it came back so negative to theme park operation, basically that we would have to wait until there were almost no infections in a county before the theme parks could reopen. Since then, it's gotten even worse because the whole state is really in terrible pandemic shape. We're the #1 cases of infection in the whole world right now in LA. And so it's looking less and less likely that Disneyland's going to open anytime soon. Except Disneyland did something super smart. They have donated their Toy Story parking lot to be a super vaccination center, the only one right now operating in Orange County. And they're trying to get people vaccinated as fast as they can with the hope that once the most vulnerable population has been vaccinated, and that would be elderly people, sick people, that maybe we start seeing the hospital occupancies drop way down because younger people don't seem to need the hospitalization and the specialty care as often as elderly people, that maybe there will be some softening in government to, okay, we can now safely reopen things as long as people keep their distance, wash their hands, wear their masks. Maybe we can reopen things like Disneyland safely if we've got the most vulnerable populations inoculated. So that's Disney's hope. Of course, there's all sorts of weirdness going on now with new strains. And I just heard this morning that maybe even our cloth masks that we're currently using may not be enough. We might need to go to wearing, like hospital grade masks for everybody. People shouldn't be even outside with each other necessarily. So I think we could see things still change. So Disney's hopes right now may get dashed by the change in the virus. But here's my big question, Chloe. So we have a change in government coming. And that takes this virus very seriously. And if things do go bad with the new strains and it causes hospital occupancies across the country to spike, and they do as they promise and they create a single national plan for handling the virus instead of local or regional plans as it's going right now across the country, could we maybe see Walt Disney World have to close again? That's a tough question I'd not prep you for, but what do you think?
No, I can absolutely see that happening. There was a period a couple months ago, maybe weeks ago, what is time now? But there was a point where cases were really bad in Florida again, and they were spiking more here than other states where they're still on lockdown and they have much more restrictions than Florida ever has. And I thought it was going to happen a couple months ago. So I would not be surprised. And I'll be here for it all. So
yeah. The difference between where Chloe lives and where I live is that she's in a state that has essentially no restrictions. Mm-hmm. Restaurants are allowed to seat people inside with no social distancing, no masks. And in California, our restaurants aren't allowed to operate. So they can do takeout only, but there's no dining, on the patio. There's no dining inside. So there's no servers. So the two states have taken like kind of the opposite role. And we're not being political folks. So we're just telling you, here's how it is in the two states. Disneyland cannot reopen because there is state guidance saying it's not safe. Florida has no guidance for theme parks other than you can return to full operation. So if Disney World wanted, they could pack the park to capacity, and require no masks and still seat people indoors in restaurants and all that stuff if they wanted, because the state tells them they can. Scary. So when people go to Florida assuming that because it's open, it's safe, just know that you really need to be responsible for your own well-being if you're going to Florida. California is going to make the decision for you. And I'm not sure which of those is right or if it's somewhere in between. But I do know that there's a lot of people out of work in California and a lot of people at risk in Florida. So there's plus and minuses to both. But at the end of the day, you have to make sure you take care of you and your family and do what is right for you. So be safe out there, folks. But here is my hope for Disneyland. I hope that the new strains are not any more deadly than the current strains, that even if they're more infectious, once enough people get vaccinated, things will be able to reopen. So our big push to everyone is get yourself vaccinated. Sooner you get vaccinated, the sooner Disneyland can reopen, and that's just a fact. If you say, I don't believe in the vaccine, or I'm not going to get vaccinated, you're saying, I don't want Disneyland to reopen until this goes away on its own. And that could be years. So the Disney folks would tell you, and the whole reason they have a vaccination center is they want you to get vaccinated. And they hope that because it's at Disneyland, you'll feel comfortable taking it. So take them up on that when your time comes, and we'll maybe get Disneyland reopened as soon as the spring, hopefully by summer. And if we don't get enough people vaccinated, it may not be until 2022.
And if I could just step in and like you said, not being political or anything like that, just to let you guys know, I actually received the vaccine. I got my first shot a couple of weeks ago. I work in healthcare, so I had the chance to do it. I have had no after effects, nothing. It's been fine. And I do have another shot that's supposed to happen at the very beginning of February. And I'm just letting you guys know, just as a living example, there's been nothing wrong with this vaccine. It's been a very easy process.
Yeah, and my doctor says, we have a lot of history on this. We've been doing new flu vaccine every single year for decades, and the same processes to create the new vaccines. There are several different types of vaccines, of course, but they use the same methodologies and processes and bases to put the vaccine in that they always have. And so they already know, some people are allergic to the vaccine, but those people already know that because they're allergic to the flu vaccine. So, it's something to do if you want to see things reopen. And if you feel that you can't do it, then you probably should stay home so that other people can enjoy their life. So that's not political. That's just us being bitchy. And a little pushy.
One of them's backed by Dolly Parton. Has Dolly ever turned you wrong? Has she ever swayed you in the wrong way? No.
That's
Dolly,
right. I love my Dolly, like single-handedly saving the world. You go, girl. So that's the big thing. Now, I have one thing to address here. And before I do, I want to give Chloe a chance. Did we miss anything important from Florida?
No, I just wanted to mention, I do hope there's some news coming about the 50th. It seems so insensitive to talk about this right after the vaccination, but I want to know what's going on with the 50th anniversary this year, because it's a mere 9 months away for Walt Disney World, and we've got nada, zip, nothing. And we just heard that the park passes for October 1st, which is the day that Walt Disney World turns 50, has been booked up. I booked mine embarrassingly enough a long time ago to make sure that wouldn't happen to me. So I will be there, but I feel for those people that have booked years or, as long as you can in advance to visit during that time, because there's no announcements for what's happening. And a lot of the attractions that were promised to open before then, we know are delayed. So I just wonder what sort of celebration we're going to have.
Well, we do know a couple things that will probably be open before then. Ratatouille could be any day now. Is that right?
Any day, yes. We have planters instead of a wall near the entryway, and then
planters on wheels.
Planters on wheels, yes.
So they can move them in the middle of the day if they want.
Yeah.
So that's always a good sign. And at Universal, Doug, it looks like there's a certain dinosaur-related attraction that might be opening sooner rather than later as well. Which one's that?
You're talking about the Veloso coaster, yeah, which looks amazing, right? I mean, just the set design and everything, they have that out. You're going over water and everything. It looks awesome. But yeah, it's set to open. I believe they said July is when it's going to be opening. So
did they give a date?
I don't think they put an exact month, have they?
Did they not? Oh, I mean, never mind. So I don't know.
July.
Summer.
It looks like it could maybe soft open way before that, like some of the Potter stuff did. It's been testing, so that's generally a pretty good sign. Once you're running the coaster and it looks like the sets have mostly been built. I was worried it was an outdoor coaster, that it was just going to be another Hulk kind of a thing, but it looks like it's going to be more like Hagrid. The Hagrid one that's so incredibly detailed, even though it's outdoors. So,
but less family friendly, which I like.
Really? So this is going to be even wilder than the Hagrid one?
Well, Hagrid doesn't go, have any inversions or, really. I mean, there's I guess there's some thrill aspects to Hagrid's. I love Hagrid's.
Wild for me, Chloe.
This Velocicoaster has what they call a top hat, 150 top hat. You go up to the very top. It's like 150 feet in the air, and you're upside down inverted.
There for a little bit, yeah.
Look, Doug came alive. He got to give us some coaster terminology, and look at him. He's smiling. Oh, that's the key right there. Make Doug happy. So, folks, I wanted to address something because we're getting so many comments from people saying, where's the MiceChat podcast? You guys haven't done one since spring of 2020. What's happening? And we did do a few on YouTube after that. And then we kind of stopped. And I tell you, there's a few reasons why. And I need you all to understand this because how you respond to what I say will really determine when or if we do more of these, because one, they take a tremendous amount of time to prepare, record, but mostly afterwards to edit, and then we have to share them. So if folks aren't sharing our podcast with their friends and family and not enough people see it, it's not worth our time and effort to produce as many of them. So it's really, if you want to see more of these, if you like them, all you have to do is share it on your Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram and say, I love this show, give it a listen, or watch it on YouTube, which you can now do. So you can now watch this in your preferred format. You can either listen to us in the car, or you can watch us on your YouTube. So we hope that we provided you with enough avenues of sharing now in your preferred format that you do share the show with your friends and family. And we'll do as many as it looks like people want. So, it was tough times. We were stressed out by COVID and being stuck at home and frustrated that, we were having to cover far more articles than we ever had done before just to make ends meet. So MiceChat quadrupled the number of articles that we wrote last year, just to make 10% of what we made in the year before, and had to take out gigantic loans to continue paying our staff. So every single day of this pandemic, we've gone further and further into debt. And it just got to a point where I looked at the shares on one of the shows that we put so much work into and saw so few people sharing compared to a previous show where, everybody was sharing, that I thought, I don't feel like wasting my time on this. And we finally got, some energy behind us. We're getting some excitement to see things hopefully reopen. Some stuff is opening in the parks to talk about. We had this huge news and a lot of people had asked for it. So we did this show as a thank you to all of our fans. But whether or not we get renewed by me is all dependent on you all. So we really, really, really thank you for your support of the site and all the stuff we do, all of our social channels, our articles, our blogs, and we hope that this show can continue in some format going forward. So let us know if you prefer the video or you prefer the audio or you like both, and you can help us out by just sharing. We're not asking for a penny. We're only asking for your love. See, like this, Chloe. You can look, I can make a heart, sort of. There it is. That looks like a heart. My heart is more like a giant oval.
Yeah.
That was my Siri just heard something that she thought was me asking her. And she said, okay, I'll send this. I don't know what she sent. I don't know what she sent to whom, but it just happened. Somebody out there just received a message from me. So anyway, Doug, thank you, my friend. It's been way too long since I've seen your face. You're incredible. And I hope we can do more of these. Chloé, I miss you so much. I want to come out and visit you as soon as it's safe. So as soon as I get my vaccination, I might make a trip out there to do some exploring and some articles for MiceChat. So keep your eyes open and we'll do some adventures there really soon. And we'll keep our eye out for you on some more news that I just got an inkling of that might be coming very soon from Disney, and it might be attraction related. So we hope to be able to share that with you very soon. So I'm excited. get news to share on the site and crash our servers again.
Yeah,
can't wait to crash our website again.
That's all we have for you all today. So make sure that you continue listening to Doug over on Season Pass Podcast. Chloé is on MiceChat at least once a week with her Disney World updates and sometimes much more, right, Chloé? We'll be back with you, we hope, real soon. Bye, everybody.